Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to report a trade.
We have a trade to announce.
Tails.
Let's go.
How about this trade that just went down?
Wow.
Okay, so the rumor's true. Okay, we just traded you. Okay, we traded you to the Indianapolis Colts. All right. So, you okay?
Nah, I'm gonna call my grandmother.
You can call your grandmother? Okay, this hasn't hit the papers or anything like that. Okay, well, why don't we do a little business first, okay? Before you call grandma, okay?
Welcome back in, everybody, to another edition of the Dynasty Trade Show. It's Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. Adam's wearing a hat. You'll be watching this on Christmas Eve. First and foremost, I hope everybody has a great Christmas holiday, whether you celebrate Christmas or any other holidays, but I hope you have a great weekend with your family, whatever you celebrate. First and foremost, that's what it's about. Spending time with loved ones. I know I have tomorrow off. Thankfully, I do have to go back to work for one day, but then a 3-day weekend, and I cannot wait. Got a lot of people coming into town. Plus, damn, Adam, it's semifinals week. Championships are on the line. We got a ton of games on Saturday, a few to follow up on Sunday. I think there's 3 on Sunday. Either way, what more can you want? Family, gifts, food, football. It is everything, everything that I love about this time of year, other than the damn blizzard that is going on right outside my house right now. Fuck the cold, fuck the snow. I don't like any of that. But how you doing, buddy? How you doing on this primer for Christmas, the Christmas edition of the Dynasty Trade Show?
You know what, Mike, and it's Christmas season. Happy holidays to all you watching the 4D Chess Dynasty Trade Show. I'm gonna get festive, put the green on with the Browns, although it's orange. We're gonna pretend that it's red. And happy holidays to everybody, man. Happy holidays to you guys. Appreciate everyone tapping back into the trade show on Christmas Eve. Hopefully, you're hanging out with family. You got to sneak away for half hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. I can't promise how long or how short this will be, but for you to watch the Dynasty Trade Show premiere on Christmas Eve. So our gift to you, once again, bringing your Dynasty trades to everybody. Mike, I think this is going to be a good one because these are primarily, not all, but primarily the shit leagues, right? They're the leagues that you're in with us, and they're the leagues with no deadlines. All these trades are happening this week, which means they're during the fantasy playoffs. So, Mike, you know what we do? Everybody watching, you know what we do. We kick off with one of our own. I'm wearing the Santa hat, but Mike was the one that was either receiving or gifting. So we'll let you judge, and we'll start off here with Mike's deal. So Mike has 2 deals in the same league with B. Hall. We're going to start off with 1 of 2. All right, so McNutted, our very own Mike, receives Travis Etienne for Latavius Murray, Matt Collins, and 1 Terry McLaurin, Mike. So this is obviously the shit auction. This is a start 14, 2 tight end, Superflex league, obviously. If it's a shit league, it's not 1 quarterback. So, Mike, I'll let you kind of take the reins on this one here. Tell everybody what's going on with this deal.
So I just got eliminated from the playoffs. I'm not playing. B Hall still is. So this is a contender and a not in the playoffs. So I don't have anything to play for. I look at it, man. Latavius Murray, we kind of talked about it last trade show. We've talked about it on AMAs with Latavius Murray and guys like Matt Collins. I think you can kind of lump him into it. Now, maybe he has a role next year. Maybe he doesn't. But I can almost bet you Latavius Murray doesn't have a very big role next year. So what is he next year? Does he get drafted in startups next year? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe if we're in one of these 40-man, 40-round leagues, maybe he gets drafted. But more than likely not. You're riding out the last few good days of Latavius Murray, so congratulations. But you do want the points, man. B-Hall's going for a championship. He wants that money. He wins this league. It pays for the next 8 years of league dues. It doesn't matter really what happens to his team. Just as long as he's competitive as long as he's competitive in the next 8 years after this year, he'll be just fine.
You'll have Christmas gifts for the next 7 years, man.
Travis Etienne is the one that I struggle with, but if I look at it, if I don't value Latavius Murray or Matt Collins at all, like they have no use to me, probably don't have any use to me next year, like I just kind of ignore them if I'm on the other end, like my end, getting the Travis Etienne. And it really came down, would I rather draft Travis Etienne and have him on my team right now, or would I rather have Terry McLaurin? And I know we're on this wide receiver running back kick, and this isn't a move where I'm trying to move Travis Etienne at a later date because of perceived market value or anything like that. I got to have a cold, hard discussion with myself about Terry McLaurin and what he is. He's going into his age 28 season.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of like DJ Moore, where we're just like, if he could get a quarterback, he may never get it. And he's never finished above wide receiver 20 in a year that he's played. Now, I like the guy, but his potential for value ascension has kind of gone out the window, Adam. Unless
there's no value ascension. It's only what he puts on the field at this point, right?
Well, unless like something crazy were to happen this offseason, like a Stephon Diggs-like trade where he goes somewhere with an elite quarterback. Like if he got traded to the Chargers and it's like him and Justin Herbert for the next 3 to 4 years, maybe Terry McLaurin could ascend into that Stephon Diggs range, right? You know, the post, 2-3 years out from his rookie year, and all of a sudden he's in his 27, 28, 29 season, the most valuable he's ever been. And in a locked-in top 10 dynasty asset or a locked-in top 10 dynasty wide receiver. So, but that's kind of a rare scenario. I mean, the most likely scenario is we struggle with a Carson Wentz or a Taylor Heineke or a Sam Howell or whoever the fuck ends up in Washington, and it's just another wasted year of Terry McLaurin where he hovers around wide receiver 20, and that's pretty replaceable, to be honest.
Well, and I mean, okay, so when I say value ascension, what I'm saying is this bump in value based on age, based on something that's not – what I'm saying is it's only production that is going to ascend his value at this point. Because of his age, the only thing that makes Terry McLaurin ascend from his current dynasty value to up is literally him either smashing with Taylor Heineke or whatever god-awful quarterback they decide to roll out next year. Merry Christmas, all you Washington Commander football fans out there with no quarterback, or he gets traded, right? And even then, Mike, like Stephon Diggs, and Stephon Diggs, first of all, had posted a wide receiver 1 season in PPR, even in Minnesota, right? So
that's fair. Yep.
Terry McLaurin has not done that yet. And he's older than when Stephon Diggs was initially traded.
Yes.
But even then, Mike, in that scenario, if he went to the new Josh Allen Buffalo Bills, right? Like, I think what's lost is that Stephon Diggs currently on Keep Trade Cut is wide receiver 11, which is a value again. Like, my point is that this value bump of Terry McLaurin's over. Now, in best ball, I'll be honest, man. I think B. Hall actually did pretty decent here.
I think he did great. I agree. If I'm on the other side as a contender, Adam, this is a move I'd consider as well for B. Hall. Like, this is, especially when you look at it, right? What week are we in? We're in the semis, right? It's a win or go home. Win or go home. Travis Etienne plays the Jets. A pretty good defense, Adam, and the weather isn't supposed to be the greatest.
Sure.
And that generally means like low-scoring games. I know we're like, well, maybe they run the ball more. Well, if you're punting every 3 downs because you can't fucking go anywhere, you can't keep the ball moving, it doesn't matter, man. 20 carries, 100 yards. Congratulations, you got 10 points. No one gives a shit, right? So if I'm in it, like I'm looking at it going like, well, if I value them close or relatively close, and one's a wide receiver and one's a running back, and one running back's got a bad matchup and a bad weather game, and I can get 2 more pieces, and Latavius Murray, who we just saw smash, Mac Hollins has had some nice games and has entered your lineup a few times. This is what I want to do. Like, I want to do the B Hall side on a contender for sure. And if I'm on the other side, I explain mine away. It's just like these other 2 dudes are kind of nothing, and if I'm looking at it doing a startup right now, 1 for 1, I'd rather have Etienne just because of the youth.
Yeah, well, I think the reason I say I think B. Hall did pretty well for himself, right? And if you just look at last week, and if you look at like the last 5 weeks, like last week, Latavius Murray outscored Travis Etienne.
Yeah, okay. That's a great point. Yeah.
Okay, in the last 5 weeks, there's multiple weeks where Murray outscored Etienne. So if you're going to give me Terry McLaurin, which I think now, like when I talk about it, right, there's a scenario where like he's value capped. Like, let's just call it that, right? He's wearing the cap. Like, there's no way he's going higher. There's no explosion in value coming because of his age, no matter the scenario. But like it's a secure value player. Like I don't know that you can currently get a true liquid first out of him in the offseason, but he's in that first territory, I think, for another year or so, you know? So you're getting that first asset back, roughly. It's not liquid, but McLaurin can pop off still for the next 2 weeks and help you win. Murray can outscore ETN, and Matt Collins is just another dartboard throw, you know? Like, give me one more shot at the dartboard. What if Waller and Adams get a bunch of coverage and Matt Collins scores a touchdown and has 4 catches and 60 yards and he makes my lineup? I mean, this is the gross best ball crusty move that I think most people are going to look at and scoff at. And here's the thing. I think for me especially, Mike, for your side, right, I would take this too. And I think that ETN has the name that you can flip. And on your side as a rebuilder, you're getting off of Matt Collins, who has no value going into the offseason. Murray is going to significantly drop in value in the offseason, right? So it becomes more of a McLaurin ETN trade straight up for you in value. And I think ETN carries more dynasty value trading. I think everybody watching, though, for me, ETN is one of these guys where, like, I'm not going to say it can't break right for him still. Like, he's had some good weeks for Jacksonville. He still could be their lead back, but he's going into year 3. He didn't play year 1. He's had a very incomplete and inconsistent year 2. He's very volatile for me. And I think, though, Mike, from your side, this is a player that you can flip for more than what you sent away, which is ultimately why you made the deal.
Let's go, man. I like the deal for both sides. Good job, B Hall. We had some good deals. Him and I had some good deals here we made. This is why you don't do trade deadlines, right? Because we're both in similar situations in one league and then the polar opposite in the other, but we can both come together and make good deals that make sense for both of us. And we both had similar mindsets. So I just like the fact there's no trade deadline and people, holy shit, I thought I might win this week. Now look at this team.
Holy Santa Claus shit. Yeah. So we have another one. Apparently these guys are just trading teams, but we have, another McNutted B Hall 7 deal. So we have Brandon Ayuk, Jalen Hurts, and a 25-second being acquired by Mike McNutted while he's sending away George Kittle, Trevor Lawrence, and Isaiah Pacheco. Mike, talk us through this one. There is a second in there, and it's pretty far out. So go ahead and walk us through it.
So this one was a lot tougher because it is a start 2 tight end league, even in best ball. Tight ends do carry more value. I just have such a hard problem with the tight end landscape after like number 5. After that, even in 2 tight end leagues, Adam, it feels disgusting. I know Kittle's had some moments. He's an Iowa guy, and I hate to do it to him. It's just like, I don't know what he is. I don't know what he is when he comes back next year. And it's Trey Lance. It's a different quarterback. And, Debo is healthy. McCaffrey's there for a full off season. And what the hell does that offense look like? The one thing I can say is I'm a big Brandon Ayuk fan, and I'm willing to get hurt again. I got hurt a couple years ago when I had him at wide receiver 15, and then he got in the doghouse and disappointed. Now he's come back, and he's been a steady performer all year, regardless of situation, regardless of quarterback. He has done it. He commands targets because he is good. He is really good at football, and I don't think that's going to change. I am taking this with my heart when I'm looking at it, and I'm going, obviously for me, especially being an Eagles fan, Trevor Lawrence is a top 12 quarterback, no doubt, and he's playing extremely well, and that's a guy you and I have touted.
And one of your truthers, and mine too, right?
Yep, both of our truthers. We touted him in the offseason when it wasn't cool to do so, and now we're seeing the fruits of our labor.
Right.
I will say this, though. I'm an Eagles fan, and I can confidently say for me, no question about it, if I'm in a startup right now, regardless of this shoulder injury or whatever happens with Jalen Hurts for the rest of this year, when I'm picking at number 3 overall in a startup, like, I want Jalen Hurts. I want Jalen Hurts above Justin Herbert. I want Jalen Hurts above Joe Burrow. Not only for my fandom, just what he actually brings to the table in terms of fantasy points. So when I look at it, I go, I'm getting an upgrade at quarterback for me. B Hall needs a guy who can play this week, needs a guy who can play right now in the semifinals. Jalen Hurts is Probably not that. I mean, we'll know by the time this episode actually premieres whether or not he's playing that week or not. But as of right now, it's not looking great.
It seems very unlikely he plays. Go ahead.
I don't care about points this year, right? I'm out of the playoffs. Who gives a shit, right? I'm looking at next year. I'm looking at it like a startup. So I'm getting an upgrade in quarterback, in my opinion, in Jalen Hurts. It makes sense for B. Hall, though, because he's getting a top 12 quarterback that's actually playing this week, putting points up. The part I struggled with is how much of a difference in a 2 tight end league is there between Brandon Ayuk in the second, even in 2025, and George Kittle in a 2 tight end league and Isaiah Pacheco.
I'm glad you put this out there because
this is the part of the trade where I go like, did I get enough back in return to make up for the obvious win that I got in Jalen Hurts? This is what I'll leave to you because I did struggle with this one. We went back and forth and counter, and there was some thirds in there, and there was some other shit thrown in there, and finally I was just like, you know what?
Simplify it.
I got an opportunity to get Jalen Hurts. I want to get Jalen Hurts. I'll push the button on the deal. So what do you think of the deal?
Okay. Well, let me say this. Everybody watching, I think, one, we have transparency from Iowa Michael McNutted. This is fantastic. We have transparency and we have admitted buying a fandom. Now, I think if you're watching this and your trade deadline's likely passed, unless you're in some shit leagues or you're in some degenerate leagues too, and if you are great, you should honestly try to make moves in the playoff time. If you're able to, I think it's some of the best times to trade. So, Mike, here's when I think about this, right? And everybody listening, like if you're telling me this is a start 9 lineup league, like I want your side. No debates. Locked and loaded, easy. Mm-hmm. So everybody listening, like if this is a lineup league and you're starting 9, starting 10, Mike's side by a mile. I think start 11, start 12 even, I probably still would take Mike's side, but it gets closer. I think in best ball is where, to your point, Mike, like this becomes very convoluted. Like I think you could look at this a multitude of ways. I really do. I think that we are seeing this year Jalen Hurts' ceiling is incredibly league winning. Like forget whatever you think about his draft capital, him not having a contract, all this stuff, his arm talent. Like Jalen Hurts is showing you, one, he can win you a league, and two, is in whether he gets it or not, is in the MVP conversation in the NFL, which means he is going to get a contract, right? So there is league winning upside and security. So as much as I love what I've seen of Trevor Lawrence, Mike, and honestly what I've seen from Trevor Lawrence down the stretch this year, he's going to move even higher for me in Dynasty, I think, than most people would give him credit for. Like I think right now when I look at Keep Trade Cut, he's currently, he is currently quarterback 8, Mike. Like for me, I think I make the case right after Herbert. Like if you wanted to take him after there, I'm not going to fight you. Like at quarterback 6, I think I make the case, right? So quarterback 6 to quarterback 3, quarterback 8 to quarterback 3, absolutely a win on your side. So let me ask you this then, because this is where I think it gets tough. In 2 tight end, right? So like George Kittle in a standard tight end league, I think I would be okay going to Brandon Ayuk in this situation. But given the scarcity and given Kittle's upside in 2 tight end, like let me ask you, obviously that was part of your pivot questioning. Like, do you have any regret on that now? And do you think it's like what's the difference for you before I answer like for me?
I will say this. While you're looking it up here, we have hands down, in my opinion, and this is some bias too. This is like me buying Jalen Hurts, but I truly mean it though. We have some of the best community members on our Patreon, period. While you're talking, I'm looking up. Koopa Troopa made warp charts for this specific league, down to the T, with every damn bonus, every damn starter.
Speak it to me.
So you can specifically look at this trade from a warp perspective. Now, warp isn't necessarily predictive of the future, right, Adam? Like it's not gonna carry over 1-for-1 into 2023, but it can give you an idea, kind of like a roadmap of what you can expect, right? And just kind of give you a guideline. Do you know who the number 2 player in the entire league for WARP for this exact league is, according to these sheets?
Number 1 warp data player.
Yes. Number 2.
Oh, 1 would be Allen.
No, Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is number 1.
Okay, so then 2 is Hurts.
2 is Jalen Hurts, right? He edges out Josh Allen. Josh Allen's a close third, though, so it's not crazy. Coincidentally, I mean, not to get too off topic, but Josh Jacobs is 4, for Christ's sakes. How good Kelsey has been in his start 2 tight end league, Adam, he's actually 6th. And I don't know if that's the last couple of weeks just haven't been jaw-dropping like they were earlier in the season, like a little bit of a fall off. But George Kittle, since he's another guy in this deal, he's Jesus, not on the list. Not on the list as far as wins over replacement. Okay. And, some of that could be tied to earlier in the season. Trevor Lawrence is QB6, so he's 20th overall in there. Mm-hmm. And, again, someone else who's not on the list doesn't make the top 50, Brandon Ayuk. So when I look at it with the potential to have like league-breaking, league-winning warp upside in a Jalen Hurts, even though it's only upgrading from a Trevor Lawrence, maybe if you project Trevor Lawrence to take another step forward next year or increase that and maybe Jalen Hurts regresses a little bit, they'll be very similar. Outside of that, man, I'm trading for Brandon Ayuk, a receiver that I like, a future pick that's liquid in 25, even though it's out so far, for a tight end who can't make the top 50 of the warp sheet. And I have concerns about going into next year. And obviously a running back who's, a 6th-round draft pick? That's easily replaced, and we see it all the time. Even though I like the guy and he runs hard and, Ray likes him. And there's a lot of people who like what Isaiah Pacheco does, but the real thing is if he gets replaced in the offseason by Kansas City, they bring in a vet or they draft another guy, nobody's going to be fucking shocked, man. They do it all the time. Well, they replaced a first-round guy they had in Clyde Edwards-Helaire like that with a guy like Jeric McKinnon. They just don't give a shit. They do it all the time.
So first of all, let's not give him that much credit. 7th-round pick, Isaiah Pacheco. All right. Now, that being said, I think that he has shown really well. I think that he is going to be the lead 2-down back next year, because I think that the one thing I would assume, now this is also, what they say about assumptions, they can make an ass out of you and me, but
that's true.
Let me say my assumption, even all that being said, right, is that I think Isaiah Pacheco is going to be the lead 1st and 2nd down back next year. I think it's clear with Jets usage and the way he's being used that he's not a 3rd down back. I don't know if they don't trust him in pass pro. He's not a great pass catcher, but
something's wrong.
Not saying he can't do it, but he's obviously not. They're not loving him being out there on 3rd downs. So I think he's the 1st and 2nd down rusher for Kansas City next year. So Mike, here's what I would say about this trade. Right, I think you easily win on Hurts versus Lawrence. I think the discrepancy on how big that is probably can be very large for some, and for others could be a little tighter. I think that could be very polarizing.
That is very fair. Yep, 100%.
I think here, if I'm being truly honest, and I love Brandon Ayuk, and you know this. If this is one tight end, Ayuk to Kittle pivot, I'm cool with. I think in 2 tight end, I think Kittle, because of positional scarcity, is the win on that trade, right? And then I think here's where I think the debate really comes in. And I know this is kind of nickel and diming in a big trade, but for me, I think Pacheco's worth a 2nd-round pick. I think where he's going to get drafted next year is in the top 12-ish range, which is what we call a 2nd-round pick generically. And I think when I think about a 25-second way out, the question is, 1, the time, and then 2, is it a bet against B. Hall and you're just going to hold, and that his team by 25 is not that good? I think that's where the conversation for me is. I think Kittle over Ayuk, and I think Pacheco over the 25-second. But that could vary a lot. If this is a late 25-second, you end up not being able to move at all. Pacheco for sure because of flexibility of moving. But if you're holding the 25-second that B. Hall's team craters, and you're all of a sudden looking at oh man, I can play 4D chess with this 25 early second in the 23 or 24 season. Totally different scenario. So I think that one also has ebbs and flows. I think, honestly, when I look at this and try to grade it unbiasedly, I think it's a pretty good deal. I think the best ball side of me leans B. Hall, but I will say that your side has the Jalen Hurts rocket ship upside. And I think it comes down to what T-Law becomes, man. I think if T-Law becomes what I think he can become, like, I want B. Hall's side. But, man, this one I think is a very good, well-constructed deal that we've probably overtalked. And I don't know what happened in league chat. I don't know what's going on with all the behind the scenes, but I like both of these deals personally. So
I will say
us know,
this,
man.
the last point about it, the 25 pick, we look at the 25 pick now, Adam.
Mm-hmm.
You got to remember the time that I'm going to come and like want to use it will be as early as, maybe September of next year, right?
Right. September of 23, right.
Think about 24 seconds now in your mind and how you perceive those.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you're going to perceive that 25 second, right? Because we're 1 year closer to it, right? It's going to be 1 year out. So it's not a next year. It's not a 23 second like we think right now, but it would be a 24 second. And if you look around your league at some teams, you're like, you know what? I think in 24, that team would be dog shit. I will trade for that. I'll put an early tag on it or mid to early tag on it. This team's going to be dog shit. So 1 year closer. Right now, it's 3 years out. It looks horrible. By the time you're ready to use it, though, next year, you're like, all right. If I value it like a 24 second at this time next year, it makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, you're loading it in the clip. I mean, I know how you're going to use it, but I'm talking about, grading it and talking time and value.
I get you. Yep.
If that's a 24 second, I think I'm having a totally different conversation. But here we go, man. We got B Hall back. So B Hall,
some dumpster turds here. Let's go.
Let's just say this. Speaking of Christmas and Christmas Eve, B Hall, you are on 3 consecutive trades in the trade show.
Been busy.
Which is a gift in itself. But B Hall 7 is acquiring Samaje Perine, Deion Jackson, and Brock Purdy. I mean, Mike, if you would have showed somebody this trade, like mid-season or preseason, just the names in general, like forget about Koopa Troopa for a second. Like if you just could take that away, and you're talking about a trade that involves Samaje Perine, Deion Jackson, Brock Purdy, people are like, why am I even looking at this? Which goes to show in best ball how much you think people don't matter and how much they can, right? These are all guys that no one cared about all offseason, all first 5-6 weeks of the season. Look at these guys. They're in a trade that involves Rondell Moore and Alexander Madison. Now, Madison, we basically have talked about multiple times, is basically this supremely valued handcuff that is truly a handcuff, right? And Rondell Moore, someone that was, being talked about as a face planner that clearly is not, and now is on IR for the rest of the year. So, Mike, all these things thought about. Samaje Perine, Deion Jackson, Brock Purdy being acquired for Alexander Madison, Rondell Moore. What are your thoughts?
In a lineup league, people hate this fucking thing. It's the most disgusting thing you've ever seen. In best ball, I think it's absolutely beautiful, and it's beautiful for both sides. In best ball, get me off of Samaje Perine, get me off of Deion Jackson, and get me off of Brock Purdy. All guys, like I talked earlier in the deals, where who knows what the hell they are in 2023. If they have jobs, what those jobs are, could be anything from a third string, backup to not even on a team, Adam. Like just scraping by, trying to make a practice squad. Rondell Moore has some potential and is like an upside dart. I'd much rather have Rondell Moore if I'm not competing right now. Let me get a Rondell Moore. And Alexander Madison, while kind of gross and hasn't done shit, we've seen crazy things where these like backup running backs, Alexander Madison has performed in the past, but who's to say in 2023 some team doesn't make a move for him and try to get him on their roster and maybe gives them a 50% workload right out the gate, and maybe he earns a bigger role going forward. I mean, we see it all the time with the way running backs change hands, and at least he has enough stuff on wax that he can perform if he's given the opportunity and the workload, albeit he hasn't done shit all this year. But you want to get off the old crusties, and if you're B-Hall in the same sense, like Rondell Moore's on IR, not playing, giving you zeros, I got to get him off my team for at least the possibility of something. Alexander Madison, backup, hasn't been doing anything, got to get him off my team. I need something to put in my lineup or have the possibility of making my lineup. Even though Samaje Perine's a backup, he's a threat to steal a goal line carry here. He's a threat to take a screen pass inside the 20 into the end zone. Deion Jackson's got third down, passing down work. Who knows? Might put up a 15, 20-point fucking game if you're lucky in these scoring settings and make your lineup. And Brock Purdy is a starting quarterback in the NFL with the chance to make your lineup week in and week out. And when you're in win or go home, you trade away the zeros, even if there's zeros with upside in this range, to go get guys who are playing and aren't going to be zeros and have the potential to make your lineup. That's why I think this is a beautiful trade for both sides.
Yeah, I think so let me start here, everybody watching. So, like, when I think about this, right, and when I get to nut cutting time here, like, we're talking about now, you're in the Final Four, okay? So, Mike, think about where we were with Rondell Moore before the year started.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the reality with Rondell Moore before the year started was kind of a 201, 202, 203 that you loved and now you hated. All offseason, you're hating it. You're like, man, I burnt this. I bought into the hype.
It's over.
I was drinking the Kool-Aid. I
Yep.
don't know what to do with him. I can't sell him because he's worth nothing. But anybody that's keeping it real would have traded Rondell Moore all offseason for whatever it took to win.
Yeah.
1,000%. And if you're watching this and you can truly, in your heart of hearts, think about this and go back to that time and say that's not the case, drop it in the comments and let me know. I'm telling you that's 100% fact. So now I fast forward, right, Mike? They have Hollywood Brown, who ends up getting hurt. Nuke is on suspension, right? So Rondell Moore shows some flashes, but then ultimately ends up getting hurt, and they still have whatever you and I want to say, Mike, about Hollywood Brown, 2 alphas by a lot of people's standards, all right? I'm not going to put Hollywood on my alpha terms or my alpha rankings, but that's narrative. Rondell Moore's on IR again, right? So now we're going into year 3. So if you're telling me that all it's going to cost me on my best ball team is to lose out on my Rondell Moore share to get Brock Purdy, you cannot. I will throw this hat. I will turn off all the lights. Dude, I want you to understand this. I really want everybody watching to understand this. Brock Purdy, coming in, not even playing the whole game, was quarterback 18, then quarterback 8, then quarterback 14. Right? He plays the Commanders and the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
Now, full circle. To go win in best ball? Yes, I want that guy. I do not care what you think about his long-term outlook, if you think Lance is going to be the starter. I don't even care about any of that. Brock Purdy for Rondell Moore on a contender, I will take it. Here's what I'll say, though. Like, P. Ryan and Jackson over Madison on the contender. Don't think that's really hot takey. When I get to Koopa Troopa's side, though, right? If you're not in it, like Brock Purdy, right? You got this asset that's like in the Shanahan system, highly volatile, probably going to be a hero to zero in the offseason. You know, what happens? Mr. Irrelevant, great story, but we're going to be always further removed from it by the day. And what are we doing? Your window to ship him is gone, right? And then what I'd like, I'll tell you what I'd like that you didn't hit on, Mike, on the Koopa Troopa side is this. So this is a league where you can trade in the playoffs, right? Madison has everything that you talked about as far as like in the offseason, maybe there's a value ascension. Dalvin Cook could get hurt in week 16.
What do you do then? Week
and
17?
all of a sudden, week 17, Alexander Madison is the buy, and everyone's coming to the 2 people in the championship are coming to your DMs, and it is a bidding war. And everybody knows it's a bidding war. And then it gets out of hand, and you get something you shouldn't have. That is the gift that keeps on giving. And I like the upside play, even though it may not be, you know, the most likely. We all know that Dalvin Cook could be hurt any week. So, like, I like that little added extra part of the Madison pickup here.
Yeah.
And, like, when you think about it, right, what am I getting off of? Back to my point in the beginning. all these guys irrelevant to start the year. So I really like it for both sides, man. Maybe it's just the season. I'm happy, I'm jolly, but I like all these deals for everybody.
You're cheerful, buddy.
Yeah. So
there we go. Pasta making the trade show with Kyler Murray acquiring for Geno Smith and Aaron Jones. Again, this really feels like the contender who's making the playoff, trying to win a semifinal, and the guy who's sitting on the outside going like, fuck yeah. You want Geno Smith? Could he have a job next year? Absolutely. Do I think he has a job? Sure. Is he Kyler Murray when he comes back? Fuck no. Not close. And all this cost me to go from a tier of quarterback like Geno Smith, who's on shaky, unstable ground, in that tier of to the firmly into the tier of top 12 is Aaron Jones, an old running back who we have questions about what happens next year if there's no Aaron Rodgers. What's that offense look like? God, Pasta, this is theft.
Now,
this is theft. Even if I'm on the other side as a contender, man, I got to be absolutely sure that Geno Smith and Aaron Jones are the things that push me over the top to get a championship, because if I fall short, if I lose this week and I don't even make the finals, holy shit, this is the deal you look back on going like, I set this dynasty team back about 4 years with one move. Fuck.
So, all right. Now, you want to talk about the Grinch that stole Christmas, all right? So, Mike, we're talking about all these, everybody listening, we're talking about best ball leagues, right? Everybody's kind of in the best ball mindset. Now, I want you to realign your thoughts. So, Pasta drops this and says, when your playoff dreams fall short, you got to reload. 12-team, Superflex, start 9 lineup.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Pasta, man.
Pasta. That being said, the last part, the settings, like I can't, because of the holiday season. Like, I'm not gonna put S. Selby into the mud 6 feet under, because that's the only way I could talk about this. Like, I'm taking it off the screen, Mike. We only have 7 deals to talk about, but I'm not saying anything about this. This is criminal. You need to be evaluated as a person. What you just did to that man, that woman, is just egregious. It's crazy. Kyler Murray over Geno and Aaron Jones in start 9 by a country mile, Mike.
Even Kyler with one knee.
Dude, I don't care. Just off of value, man. It's just insane. You're talking about a top 12 quarterback that you got for a running back that not everybody loves, and a quarterback that we know not everybody loves. I mean, my goodness, that's bad, man. Good for you, Pasta. That's a wow. That is a dynasty shifter. Like, if you went to, like, shout out to our boy Jay Wack over at Dynasty Nerds. Like, if you went to the Dynasty Nerds before and after, I mean, you're talking about league changing dynamics of the stack of your bar. I mean, that's
the Dynasty GM tool is losing its mind, probably starting on fire, because it's like, shit, I got to take somebody to go from first to last.
Mike, it took until week 10, I think, for Geno to even become on the contending part of the bar. So
anything to register.
Yeah. So, all right, man. We have one that our boy Blitzing Buzzard, man. I love Blitzing Buzzard. Patron is very active. One of Nate Liss's guys. So shout out to Blitzing Buzzard. He snuck this in at the buzzer, not the buzzard, the buzzer, Mike, because right before the deadline, 12-team, 1 quarterback, PPR lineup start 10, Mike. So he is getting a 23-second. Given that it's in the playoffs, I'm assuming this is a guy in the playoffs. So we're talking a later, 107 or later, 23-second.
Could be. I mean, the guy he's sending Zonovan Knight to isn't the one who's sending the second back. You know what I mean? It's a different name there at the bottom.
Oh, so. You know what? Well, Mike, correct me when I'm wrong, because you are 100% right in something I'm not even looking at. The Good Doc 08, who knows what this is? So, great point. This could be a non-playoff team. Mike, I guess that being said, talk about it from both lenses, whether it's early, mid, late.
It doesn't matter.
One quarterback. Now, it is one quarterback, though.
That's fair. That's
so
fair.
I just want to give the settings. And now I'm not trying to tell you to don't steal your thunder. You go ahead and, you crush it.
I still think the class is deep enough. I mean, we just got done doing a multi-hour podcast with the legend himself, Mr. Ray Garvin. And all we talked about was just quarterbacks, Adam. We didn't even get into all the running backs and all the wide receivers. Now, granted, there's only, 3 that we think are like first round worthy, and then it's a bunch of other guys that we're kind of waiting to see. But the class is deep. Even in one QB, the class is deep. If I look at it and I go, I have the opportunity to get out of Bam Knight, even though that's a guy we love, what's the profile, Adam? He had a couple good games, but he's an undrafted free agent that struggled to make the lineup on an NFL roster until later in the season after multiple injuries to guys ahead of him, guys who are coming back, right? Michael Carter came back last week and kind of got worked into the mix. At some point next year, the legend, Breece Hall will be back and carrying the load. I like what I've seen from Bam Knight, even though he had a bad game last week. If I can get this out and just get it at the buzzer and re-roll into another lawn dart that has more draft capital, right? Even in a 1 QB league, if this pick is the 211, the 210, the 209, whatever the hell it is, Adam, you're probably re-rolling into a running back that's getting 4th round, 5th round draft capital at worst versus a guy who's undrafted and has had a couple good games. You know what I mean? Like, I want the pick. Now, if you tell me this pick also, even in a 1 QB, has the potential to be the 203, 202, 201, depending on what team it's from, holy shit, that's highway robbery. That's absolute theft. And blitzing buzzard strikes. So, yes,
right,
I want the pick in here, even though I'm a Bam Knight fan. But I don't want to pay anything significant for him. You know what I mean?
So let me make the opposite case, only because, not that I actually want the other side, but just to be fair, to try to give, diplomacy. Talk about it from both lenses, Mike. Especially on Christmas Eve. We're thinking giving. I don't want to be giving away Donovan Knight. Mike, let me ask you this, because when we think Superflex, we're talking 4 quarterbacks, and we just had the conversation with Ray. You're going to have already heard the podcast drop on Friday. Top 5 picks in Superflex leagues, Mike, 4 of them are going to be quarterbacks based on what you, I, and Ray discussed, right?
Yes.
So if you take 4 picks away, before we get to someone maybe reaching on Hendon Hooker or somebody else at quarterback, you're talking about the 304 here. Does that change your mind in Superflex? Like if someone said, here's my 304 for your Bam Knight, does that change for you?
The counterpoint I would make, and we have seen this across leagues.
The number?
Even 1 QB leagues, we have seen it. The emphasis on finding that quarterback even in 1 QB leagues, which is a warp advantage, right? Jay Rich and Scott and Eric did a fantastic show where they kind of just discussed it about from the lens of redraft leagues. Like we generally think of redraft leagues, the first quarterback in 1 QB leagues and redraft goes around in the 3rd round, like somewhere in there. Somebody will take a Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. Adam, I think there's a realistic scenario because the quarterback market is so fucking disgusting and those guys at the top provide such an advantage that's going to be round 2, and that's kind of what they talked about. But there's also a trickle-down effect in rookie dynasty drafts where after you get past a certain point, you're going to shoot the moon on guys like Anthony Richardson or on a Will Levis.
Sure.
Because if they do hit and become top 5 quarterback options at any point, even in a 1 QB dynasty league, you have an advantage over the rest of your league that is hard to make up and hard to fill because quarterbacks score so many damn points. So if you look at it and you go like, oh, you take the quarterbacks out, well, add them into the 2nd round again, Adam, and all of a sudden the positions become the same depth. You know what I mean?
Let's do that again then, right? Let's do that again though, and say that all the quarterbacks do go in the 2nd round. So now you're looking at truly a 212, 301 if it's late, right? This is a scenario of if it's late to defend the other side. And Mike, I like the 23 class a lot, right? But let's say all the quarterbacks do go. Let's say the upside reaches come. So you're talking about, Mike, based on what we're looking at in mocks, like Rashee Rice out of SMU or, Dwayne McBride running back out of UAB. without draft capital or whatever. I mean, Bam Knight was a third-round pick, before we found out he was undrafted. I guess my question is, if the quarterbacks end up even going in the second round, let's say, and you're talking about a late second, early third in value, is that something, whether it's Superflex or one quarterback, you're taking currently for Bam Knight in the playoffs?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
I will re-roll it.
Okay, fair enough.
Because kind of like I opened it, you talked about those guys. Those guys are probably third, fourth, fifth round draft capital guys. Like those are Brian Robinsons at the worst.
Well, but that's what I'm saying though, is that, let me just say this last point, because Bam Knight before the landing spots, like at this time of the year, was absolutely in this range before we found out he was undrafted. So my only point is, like, Dwayne McBride today could end up being, undrafted, although we like him out of UAB, but
could be.
That's my only counterpoint. Like, if you're forcing me to defend the other side, Mike, because let me just say this: blitzing buzzard, you win this deal. All right, I'm not trying to act like you didn't, get over on Formica 108, but like, if I tried to play devil's advocate on the other side, is there any scenario where it was light at all?
No.
Okay, fair enough, because I agree. Now, I think where I would pause, Mike, is because I made a deal where I ended up getting 3/3, but I know that 2 of them were going to be late thirds in 23. That's where I pause. So if you're telling me even in one quarterback that it's a late 23 second, which we don't even know that's the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
I still think I'm probably in. Maybe I try to grease the wheels a little bit, but like, push comes to shove, this is what I got to take, I'm taking it. But when it's late third versus late second, I think is where I make the big distinction on, like, I think at that point I'm shooting my dart on something so similar that I'm hoping that it's Bam Knight for me to trade for Bam Knight's value again. But in the second round, I'm in.
You got to think too, like, people have a hard time paying just a generic second for guys that have way better profiles and have produced far more in the NFL level than Zonovan Knight has yet.
By far.
So
and
when you take that into context, you're like, give me the fucking second, man. Let me get off the undrafted guy. I'm good. Because I could go buy one of these other dudes for this exact pick if I want and feel much better.
And actually, Mike, the reason I talked about one quarterback and, the quarterbacks going is because what we are not even acknowledging here is if this ends up being a mid or an early second, like, you could be looking at either a stud receiver, stud running back, or, Mike, maybe you decide I'm going to be the first one that takes Anthony Richardson, the league-winning upside in 1 QB. So
there it is.
I think there's a lot of ways where blitzing buzzard wins, very few where he loses. I think there are a few scenarios, but it's so few that I'm willing to take that every time. All right. So we got a non-shit league. Let me just say that was what we started with. Non-shit league. I'm reading what I'm seeing. It's a lineup start 11. It is a 2 tight end league, Mike. So we got Eskimo Punch. Koopa Troopa, I'm going to ask you where you found Eskimo Punch, because, like, is it so far up in the Northern Territory? Like, is it Tom's buddy way up in the wilderness? Like, does he know anything other than just what happened yesterday? Because Eskimo Punch is acquiring Jeric McKinnon for his 23 second, Mike. Jeric McKinnon's been good, man. These last couple of weeks, he's been really, really good. Like, if you did a warp chart for the last 2 weeks, I'm imagining Jet is going to be surprisingly high. But he's really old. He is super unsure of what's going to happen. This is a 23 second, and Mike, given that he didn't say it, I know it's Superflex. So, what are your thoughts?
I will say this, man. If you're paying a second for Zonovan Knight, even in a 1 QB league, or paying a second for Jeric McKinnon in a 1 QB league, both of them are overpays regardless. But I'm not lying here when I'm saying if I'm the contender, I'd rather have Jeric McKinnon.
No doubt.
No question about it. Now, would I pay this for Jeric McKinnon? Fuck no.
That being said, yeah, no. What would you pay for Jeric McKinnon?
I'd give a third.
Would you give 2/3?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm good. No.
Really? Not even 2/3? 2 late thirds?
Man. No.
I would give 2 late thirds.
No, I'm good. Fuck out of here.
Just because my 2 late thirds on a contender next year, like I have a hard time moving thirds as it is. 2 late thirds I would do that, but that is my absolute top dollar. Like, man, I just can't move these picks, and I think this could help me win as a splash play at running back. Probably an overpay, but I would do it in the playoffs.
I will say this. This is the difference between like lineup and best ball too, specifically. If this is the lineup league, no.
It is a lineup league. It is a lineup league. Start 11. Start 11.
Those lineup like late thirds, I get it, Adam, but no, I'm still like, I'd rather keep the dart throws. You know what I mean? Like, am I going to really start? Is my team really a fucking contender if I got to start Jeric McKinnon?
My only thought process is based on how he's playing, Mike. Given all the injuries, right? Like, to me, I'm moving off of thirds, which in lineup, the odds of thirds hitting in lineup, especially late thirds, is just like you're almost playing the lottery, Mike. I mean, it is tough at the 35th, 4th, 6th pick to hit gold. So if you're telling me I'm trading 2 of those away, and let's say I have this injury-riddled team but still really good, and like Jets my last flex in PPR league, I'll do it, man. I know it's gross. I know it doesn't feel the greatest. That's my top dollar. My only point when I'm making all this is like I'm trying to go the extra mile to show you like that's me saying, fuck it, man. Give me Jeric McKinnon. This? No, man. You can miss me with any second. Like, I don't even care 1 quarterback Superflex, but I only play in Superflex. No. You I don't care. You can have your Jeric McKinnon as a rebuilder. Like, there's no chance. So I think Koopa smashed this.
Yes.
I don't know. Is there? Let me ask you this, Mike. Let's say you're Eskimo Punch. All right. Now, we all admit you wouldn't do this. Let's say you're Eskimo Punch, and let's say your last flex just isn't very good. If Jeric McKinnon being your last flex won you a championship, is it worth the 212 in Superflex? Don't you dare say no, because you know the answer is yes.
I'd fucking hate myself.
But would it be worth it? All right.
It would be worth it.
So there you go. I tried my best. There it is, Eskimo Punch. You probably don't watch the show, but if you do, I did my damnedest to make it worth your while, because you better win the title. Otherwise, you got absolutely slayed in that deal.
You couldn't find somebody else.
I just think you could find a better deal for something different than McKinnon, but
like
I don't know, man.
You can do like a second for third swap too, like something like that. You know what I mean?
Fair.
Give me a third back. Come on,
grease me a
I'll
little.
I'll give you a second for Jeric McKinnon. Give me a third back for Christ's sake.
Right.
Give me something.
Can you grease me a little? Yeah, our last deal of the day here, Mike. Merry Christmas Eve to everybody. We got Bleed Green 623, right? And we got 4 rings RO. So this is Marlon. Marlon has been very active in the AMA. I believe this is his first deal on the trade show. And I always try to save the new, trade show deals for new patrons to last. Mike, Daniel Bellinger, the eye socket wonder, as well as a 4th and a 24 first, Mike, for Brady, Russell Gage. So the Tampa stack that doesn't exist because Russell Gage has been, for all you touters of Russell Gage, that we told you all summer. How's that worked out, buddy? How has that worked out? Not well. Someone's still trading for that stack in the playoffs, Mike, in the 24 second. So when I look at this, right, so when you look at the bottom, it is Bleed Green's 623's pick, Tom Brady, Russell Gage. So you're getting Bellinger, a 4th that's from this 4 rings RO. I'm assuming that's going to be a later one. But you're getting a 24 first. And when I'm seeing he's taking Brady and Gage, I'm thinking, let me bet against this guy next year, not this year. So, Mike, thoughts on this deal?
I will say this. Before I go out and tell you that Russell Gage is irrelevant, he's had 2 games where he's actually been worth a shit. Best ball, lineup, whatever. If you started him in lineup for those 2 weeks, congratulations, you're a savant. because he gave you no reason to start him before that. He finished wide receiver 4 1 week, Adam. Before that, he scored 3.3 and 7.8 points. So if you still wrote him out for the 3rd week in a row and enjoyed that in lineup, congratulations. Best ball, doesn't really matter. You don't have to choose when to start him. And
this is a best ball league, by the way. This is a 12-team best ball Superflex. But go ahead. This
past week, he was wide receiver number 5 on the week, right? 25.9 fantasy points, but he didn't inspire a lot of confidence before that with 9.2, 2.1, 7.9, 4, 6.
Which is, Mike, this is why I'm saying this is a Christmas miracle, because you're trading Russell Gage off the back of this one random week again. Like, are you saying – so do you believe, if you are 4 rings RO, that Russell Gage, this big, huge week that we saw happen once earlier, is all of a sudden like the fantasy playoffs, like these next 2 weeks, you can bank on him, top 24 wide receiver? Not for me.
I mean, you got a 20% chance he actually does fuck all and makes your lineup. So 20%, that's where he's at. 2 out of fucking 10 weeks, he's actually done something. The other ones, he hasn't done anything. So when I say the 23 4th and Russell Gage are pretty much even, Adam, I don't think that's a stretch of the imagination. Now, you look at the rest, Tom Brady for Daniel Bellinger. In a best ball league, though, I mean, there's no question about it, man. I want Tom Brady.
Sure.
It's a quarterback. It's starting. But there's no question about it that I want the first over the second. If I'm going to make that bet against your first and my second, this is pretty easy. I will give you my second if you want to give me your first. So if I look at it, if I'm not competing, I'm not in the playoffs, Tom Brady is probably done after this year, right? It's over. Like, you're not going to be able to trade him for anything else.
We had this last time, man. Like, I'm not going to bet against Brady ever coming back another year. I mean, the dude got a divorce. But here's what I'll say, Mike. In best ball, right? Like, what Brady's been giving me, it's replaceable. Like, I could find that on Brock Purdy's probably – Brock Purdy's probably outscored Brady. We just did a deal, right? The last 3 weeks.
I wouldn't doubt it, man.
I would bet that he has. It's certainly 2 of the last 3 weeks. Point is, you got him off waivers. So I know the whole Superflex thing, man. I do. And I like Brady as the GOAT. And I think there's a scenario maybe he returns, and if he goes to a new situation, he's back in the conversation of, top 20 quarterback. But, like, if I'm rebuilding, I'm not willing to bet on that other side. I'm thinking, okay, this is maybe finally the year where it all comes crashing down. Maybe the Mikes of the world trade me a 4th, and this time he does retire. I get that free 4th. Like,
yeah.
Mike, I'll be honest, man. Brady to Bellinger is probably light, right? Even if I'm moving Brady, it's light. Mm-hmm. I think I'd rather a 4th engage on a rebuilder, man. Like, I think you maybe could ask for more off of a pop week, but like I just want to move Gage, honestly, personally.
Please.
I think the big difference is, where does this first project in 24 versus that second? Because here's the thing, right? If you think about this in 23, you're probably looking at, like, this is a top 4 team. So you're looking at, 108 to 112 versus what could be maybe an early second. So you're not looking at a lot of difference. But you give me a whole year, Mike, of you taking the Brady and the Gage and the first is gone, and I get to bet against all the bad moves you're making, and I get to play up the values. Watch that second be more middling to late. Watch that first all of a sudden creep into the non-playoff range. I don't care about the rest of the deal. I think that this deal ends up coming down to that 24 first and that 24 second. And I love the bet here, because it's not one that costs you a lot, right? Like Brady right now, like, contenders will try to buy cheap in playoff leagues that are allowed to trade. Gage, sure, whatever. Best ball, I don't know, Mike. I'm not a Gage guy, but if someone said, here's Russell Gage for a 4th, and I'm like a strong contender that needed another receiver, I probably wouldn't do it. But what the hell? I'm not going to fight you. Like, fine. That first for a second, all the other stuff could be irrelevant. That first and second difference could be massive. We know how good the 24 class projects. That's a top 6 pick in 24, Mike. Best player, as Ray would say, in the deal by a country mile. If that 24 seconds more like 18 to 20, you absolutely killed this deal. So I think it's one that doesn't look that bad to the eye, but I love it for Bleed Green 623, man, personally.
Marlon definitely pays attention to 4D. Way to go, Marlon, because he implemented it. He implemented the mysterious 5D demonic, where you bet against a guy by giving him old, crusty, gross assets and think this is either going to go one or two ways. Either these assets are going to retire, and that pick's going to be really good in 24, or this guy wins the league this year and goes, hey, the next few years are free. I don't give a shit. Nuclear rebuild. Tear it all to the ground. And again, that pick will be really good in 2024. Love it, Marlon. Go Birds. Go Birds. NFC East champions and soon to be Super Bowl champions.
Fly, Eagles fly, as the greens in the background. Some people on streams would say, fly, mosquitoes fly. So I'm not going to be the one that picks one. I'm not going to be the one that picks one way or the other here. But there you have it. Mike, I'll say this: that was not the sexiest of trade shows, but no. I'll tell you what it is. It's the holidays, and there were some gift wraps. There were some gift wraps in those trades, and I think more than anything, Mike, these deals should show people, whether it's lineup or best ball, like the type of things you can kind of conjure up outside of the last deal, which don't cost you an arm and a leg if you're in the contention mode to go win. What can I do to trade some of these pieces that aren't going to forego my whole mortgage of future, right? To go win a title. And on the opposite end, if you lost in the playoffs or if you're not in the playoffs, how can I add a little extra piece or two on my team for value for next year for someone that wants to really go win a title? So, Mike, I love dynasty deals, but I think that dynasty deals in the playoffs, they're really good, even if you don't think they're the sexiest, right? You may not see Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson floating around a lot, but I think this is how deals can help win leagues for people. So I personally love the trades this time of year, and I think that every league should always allow trades, even in the playoffs.
Yeah, fuck them. Fuck them trade deadlines, man. They're disgusting. Let's normalize not having a trade deadline in your leagues. When we're on a mission to normalize best ball leagues, we also need to be on a mission to normalize not having trade deadlines, damn it.
Exactly right.
Everyone, you need to be able to trade whatever the hell you want because you get some really interesting, thoughtful deals that generally end up making sense for both teams unless, you're trading Bam Knight for a second. It's something along those lines. Man, that's all I got. Great deals, man. Happy holidays to you, Adam. Hope you have a great Christmas with your family. Be really interested to tap in with you Saturday morning, not only for the trade show premiere that will be coming out, but we also have a start sit that we need to do since the NFL's we're going to play all our games on Saturday and very few on Sunday.
Yeah, and, obviously we do this every week. If you could, go down and hit the subscribe button. Not only does it help us significantly as we are on our march to 1,000, but you will be entered into a giveaway by being a subscriber that gives you a chance to win one of 4 signed jerseys that Mike uncontrollably purchased on Pristine Auction. There's a chance for more. Now, you're probably watching thinking Adam's got the whole green thing going on in the background, the hat. He's really overdoing this whole Christmas thing. But let me tell you this. I got another prize for everybody. It's not a gift to everyone subscribing, but I will say, I'm in the giving season, and Mike, I have a surprise, a gift for you, a Christmas gift, that will be next week's trade show. The person airing, I can't tell you, it's going to be a surprise, but I can tell you the person airing is going to be a treat for you. So that's the gift. We will have a surprise guest next week that I think Mike's going to quite enjoy for the last week of the trade show in the playoffs. Because here's the thing. The trade show never ends. Once the season finishes, trade should be opened up widely. We should be getting back to like, okay,
Slamming them.
all the teams that missed 3 weeks of the playoffs, we're back, baby, you know? So keep submitting those trades to the trade show. If you do want your trades featured on this show, patreon.com/South Harmon. $1 gets you in the door. You can put your trades in the Shithead Trades channel. They have an opportunity to make the show. And once again, if you have found value, please hit the subscribe button. Other than that, Mike, that's all I really got, man.
Just make sure if you're watching this on Saturday morning early, head on over to Destination Devi. Check out Adam and I on the start sit, along with Eric Vanek and whoever we get as a fourth. We will help you with your semifinal lineup decisions. And then the big thing, tap in. We're not going to do a recap show on Saturday. We got Christmas Eve with families, nothing on Sunday, but tap in Tuesday night as we get a special guest on the AMA on our channel. One of my good buddies from a long time ago. We met playing NCAA 13 online Dynasty college football, if you can believe it or not. Works at draftcountdown.com. One of the partners over there, Shane P. Hallam. So if you have draft questions Tuesday night, Shane is all knowing about the NFL draft and very, very good at it. So it'd be a perfect person to ask all your 2023 questions. If you get knocked out of the playoffs this week and you want to start focusing on the future, Shane's the guy. So we will have him on Tuesday. I'm very excited for that, Adam.
We're good to go, man. The gift that keeps on giving. The 4D Chess Dynasty Trade Show, the South Harmon YouTube channel, the Destination Devi team. Make sure you're tapped into everything going on there. We appreciate everybody tapping in. Hope you had a Merry Christmas. Happy Christmas Eve to everybody. We will see you back here, same time, same place next week for the 4D Chess Dynasty Trade Show, otherwise better known as the Dynasty Trade Show. Ohio State, we're out of this thing. Peace.